Today we're going to start chapter 4 in history, that is, in the earlier cities. Introduction. About 80 years ago, archaeologists have found the site. They realized that it was one of the oldest cities in the subcontinent. As it was the first city to be discovered, all other sites from where similar buildings and other things were found were described as Harappan. The cities of Indus Valley civilization are known as Harappan cities. It was rediscovered in 1920 after excavations from Sindh and Punjab in present day Pakistan. Now, special facts about the cities. The town was divided into two parts, that is, a western and eastern part. In west, the town was smaller but higher, and thus it was known as citadel. On the other hand, in the eastern part, the area was larger but lower, and thus it was said to be as lower town. The buildings in these towns were made up of well baked bricks. The bricks were laid in an interlocking pattern to make the walls strong. In some cities, special buildings were constructed on citadel. Examples of such cities are Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, Lothal, and Kalibagan. For example, in Mohenjo-daro, a special tank which archaeologists called as the Great Bath was built in citadel. It was lined with bricks, coated with plaster, and made watertight with a layer of natural tar. There were steps leading down to it from two sides, while rooms on all the sides. Water brought in from well and drained out after use. Important people took dip in it on special occasion. Other cities such as Kalibagan, Lothal had fire altars where sacrifices were performed, while in some cities they had storehouses, houses, drains, and streets. Houses in these towns, houses were 1 or 2 stories high, with rooms built around the courtyard. The separate bathing area were there, and they also had wells to supply water. Now drains. The drains were covered. They had gentle slopes so that water could easily flow. Drains in the house were connected with those of the streets. The smaller drains led into the bigger ones. Inspection holes were also provided to clean them regularly. The streets cut each other at right angles so that heavy vehicles can take the turn easily. Houses were made on both the sides of the streets. Life in the city. The city was a very busy place. Rulers, scribes, craftspersons were living there. They brought metal, precious stones from distant land. Craftsperson that includes both men and women. They make all kinds of things either at their home or in a special workshop. Scribes were the people who know how to write. They helped in preparation of seals. Terracotta toys were also found. Things were made up of either of stones, shell, or metals. Copper and bronze were used to make tools, weapons, ornaments, and vessels, whereas gold and silver were used to make ornaments and vessels. Other things found, such as blades, weights, and beads. Seals were made out of stones. These were rectangular in shape. Usually, animals were carved on it. Apart from these things, pots with beautiful black designs and seals of stones were also found. Cotton cloth pieces were found attached to the lid of a silver base. New crafts in the city. Copper objects were also found at Mohenjo-daro. Spindle whorls were also found, which were made up of terracotta and faience. They were used to spin thread. Now, faience is an artificial substance which is very which have a very glossy texture, and it is like a gum. It is basically used in making bangles and beads. Many of the things were produced by specialists. Now, who are specialists then? So, specialists are the person who is trained to do only one kind of work. For example, cutting stones, polishing beads, or carving seals. In the search of raw materials are the substances that are either found naturally, such as wood or ores of metals, or produced by the farmers or the herders. Some of the raw materials that the Harappans used were available locally, while many of items such as copper, tin, gold, silver, precious stones were brought from distant land. Now, bronze, it is an alloy made up of mixture of tin and copper. Now, here are the materials which is shown how they were managed. A copper, it was brought from Rajasthan and Oman, that is in West Asia, whereas tin was brought from Afghanistan and Iran. Gold was brought from Karnataka, and precious stones from Gujarat, Iran, and Afghanistan. Now, food for the people. Farmer and herder grew crops and reared animal and supplied food to craftspersons, scribes, and the rulers. They grew wheat, barley, pulses, peas, rice, sesame, linseed, mustard. Plough was used to dig the earth for turning the soil and planting seeds. Real plows were probably made up of wood, have not survived. Toy models have been found. Harappans reared cattle, sheep, goat, buffalo, provided them water and pasture, and they were taken at distant places in dry summer for grasses and water. They also collected fruits like bear, they caught fish and hunted wild animals like antelope. Now, a closer look to Harappan towns in Gujarat. The city of Dholavira was located on Khadir Belt in the Rann of Kutch, where there was fresh water and fertile soil. Dholavira is divided into three parts. Each was surrounded with a massive stone walls. Here, entrances were through gateways. Now, there were open areas for public ceremonies. Harappan script were found on white stones and inlaid in woods, while in some places these writings were on small objects such as seals. The city of Lothal stood beside the tributary of Sabarmati in Gujarat close to Gulf of Khambat. There were semi-precious stones which were easily available. It was an important center for making objects out of stone, shell, and metals. There were there were a storehouse in the city. Many seals and sealings were also found here. Some scholars believe that the rivers dried up due to desertification. In some places, there were floods, rulers lost control, sites in Sindh and Punjab were abandoned, while many people moved to newer places, smaller settlements to the east and south. The Harappan civilization suddenly declined around 3900 years ago. Broken roads and clogged drains indicate towards the decline of the civilization. These were some reasons which were responsible for the decline of Harappan civilization.